Hello, one and all, and welcome to the Don't Break the Oath podcast. I'm Lee, this is Stig.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about the canal deaths of Manchester.
Yep. Since 2008 to 2014 was 64 deaths in the canals, mainly most male, but has come to light in the recent weeks that there's actually been 85 deaths in Manchester City canals.
And most of those deaths have been coming up as unexplained
And
from the coroners.
Yeah, well, you got some of the locals saying it's a serial killer on the loose.
Called the Pusher.
Yeah, called the Pusher, but police say no chance. But I would have thought they'd had CCTV evidence by now. You would think all these deaths, 85, so that's 10 people a year dying in the canals?
That's what I'm thinking, because if this has been going on since 2008, why haven't the police put cameras up in locations?
Or made it even safer. Or council
maybe
make
done
it safer,
like a patrol.
Yeah.
You know, even like just a nightly patrol at a certain time. They must have a rough idea when these people are going missing and all the rest of it. So that's something not right about that.
Yeah, true. Just to let you know, we have got a map in front of us, but we won't be able to put it up on the podcast because we can't quite work it out yet. But when we do, we will get photos up. Everyone's looking for a natural explanation. Pusher, serial killer,
homophobe.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing we should probably talk about here. I mean, the initial thoughts towards this was that the police and the locals suspected that it might be someone that had something against the gay community, because in that particular part of Manchester is where all the gay clubs are located. So obviously these people walking home on a night time are getting picked off.
So just be wary, people. Just be wary.
Yeah. But like I say, the police don't think it's a serial killer, although actually if you read some of the statements, they're not quite sure. And there's like top psychologists, criminologists saying that it looks like the work of a serial killer. But that's where I differ from what they believe, because they're looking for a natural explanation, and I don't think it is a natural explanation. I think we're looking at something supernatural.
Well, we'll get into that a bit later on, right? Anyways, before we get started on talking about the deaths and that, just wanted to let you know what the police think. Police published, apparently, a serial killer myth, a YouTube clip, this is hours before they actually put the documentary is broadcast. And as it says, I believe it is DCI Marsh said that there's nothing to suggest there is any evidence that a serial killer operated in Greater Manchester. The rumours of a serial killer were on the back of a 2014 Freedom of Information request, which did not give a level of detail into the depth of the investigation that had gone on in each individual case, and people made assumptions about it.
Because a lot of those deaths were unexplained circumstances, even though a lot of these people have been found in water as well, so exposure and drowning. So this is why the police were at pains to say that the original Freedom of Information request, which showed the 61 deaths between 2008 and 2014 in the waterways around the city centre, the figures were not all suspicious, as some of the deaths included in that would have been suicide. But a lot of these are ruling out suicide. You know, these are people that have been out having a good time, you know.
Just basically on the way out.
Now, people can fall in the water drunk. To me, I still think you can get out. If you fall in the water, if this is not a serial killer pushing people in, I think if you fall in the water, even if you're pissed, you're going to be able to get out.
Well, it depends, doesn't it?
Well, I was talking...
The shock.
Yeah, well, there is that. But I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was on holiday, and he was hammered, and he was on the back of a boat in the Mediterranean out in Greece somewhere, and he was, like I say, he was hammered, and he fell off the back of the boat. He was looking for the toilet, and he fell into the water. He said he went down like a stone, which you would, but then self-preservation kicked in, and he swam to the surface, and then obviously at the surface he asked his mate what he should do, and his mate told him to get the fuck out of the water, like, so he got over to the boat and got himself out. Now, he was properly legless. He was saying that he was supporting himself with his mate. He was actually walking shoulder to shoulder just to stay upright. So this is properly paralytic.
This is in a state where I've had like 3 bottles of vodka and I can't even walk.
Yeah, and still managed to get out. So all these people falling in. Now, when you look at Birmingham's got more canals than Venice, and yet it's got a quarter of the number of deaths in the same time period from 2008 to 2016 as Manchester. So that should ring alarm bells right there.
Oh, it should do, yeah.
Like, there's a couple of cases in Birmingham that have proved how certain people died. I think there was one girl who died of an epileptic seizure. She just fell in. It's just pure coincidence that she was next to the canal at the time. So a number of these, so even at the 85, he took a quarter away. You know, let's just take 20 away, just to say, all right, those could have been accidents. And I know the police try and, in a lot of ways, they try and say that these could be suicides as well.
Yeah. But there's an author, Thomas Sheridan, and a Birmingham professor who you might know, Craig Jackson, and there may be a serial killer, later dubbed the Pusher, on social media and on the loose the city centre towpaths. So, like I say, everyone in Manchester, just be wary where you go, because if there is...
But there's nobody coming out with near misses, is there? I mean, if it was someone just walking along pushing people in, you'd think every now and again you're going to get one person who gets out and reports it to the police and says, "Like, someone tried to push me in." That leads me to believe that it's not a human being doing this.
Even this documentary, the police are still living it down. Basically, the Manchester Pusher, relative of canal deaths, victims raised claims of serial killer in TV documentary, and it says police say there's absolutely no evidence to support this theory, but admit there will continue to be rumours. Hello, Mr. Policeman Officer, sir, Commissioner, whoever, you'd fucking sort it out. You'd make it safe. Even when that gentleman died in where we live, in Riverhead, they put safety precautions up.
A lot of this stretch of canal, there's a guy on YouTube, Curiosity I think it is, and he actually walk this stretch of canal, and most of it's got railings and it's well lit and all the rest of it. And even though it's early in the morning when a lot of these people are going missing, there's still enough people milling around with it being a drinking hotspot.
Anyways, the suspicious death of a student whose body was found in the canal could be linked to a serial killer dubbed the Pusher, as a grieving dad has said. A design student, the name of Sovic Pal, 18, was found dead in Bridgewater Canal about 50 yards away from Warehouse Project Dance Night on the new year of 2012 in Trafford Park. He is said to be thrown out by a door staff for jumping a queue for the toilet. Oh wow, we've all done it. Right. Anyways, apparently the CCTV pictures of Sovic with a mystery man, and who his father Santa believes responsible for his death, one of 85 waterway deaths in Greater Manchester since 2008. So it is actually 85, as we have got here, as we've just gone through. It says the death has led to claims repeatedly denied by police. Anyway, that a serial killer dubbed the Pusher could be stalking the rivers and canals of the city. Like I say, just be wary.
Oh yeah, the second part of the CCTV of the Sovic Powell. His dad's not convinced that it's him in the footage. That's a recurring theme in a lot of these cases. The police will produce CCTV footage, and the parents will say, "That's not. I don't think that's my son," but the police will say, "Oh, that is." And we see him there, blah blah blah. And there's a second piece of footage, CCTV footage, in the Sovic Powell case, which shows him crossing over a fence. Now they think that he left the club because he needed a toilet, so he's jumped over this fence to have a piss,
most
and
likely.
then jumped back over to rejoin the club. The only problem with that is that the former Derbyshire Detective Superintendent Tony Brockley reviewed 3 of the watery deaths and said on the Channel 4 documentary that it seemed exceptionally odd, as it would require Sovic, this is in the second CCTV footage, require Mr. Powell to wade through water. Now, if you're going to go back into a club, I know you need a piss and you're going to come out of a piss and all that stuff. If you're going to go back into a club, you ain't going to wade through water.
No.
So
that's just mental. Even if you are drunk, you're not gonna.
It's just not gonna happen.
You're not gonna go. Oh, I'm off for a piss. I'm gonna go for a walk through the water. Oh, I'm off back to the nightclub.
Yeah.
No.
So that's clearly not him in that.
No.
So do you see what I mean? That it's almost like the police are trying to put an ending on a lot of these cases, showing these people near the water and all the rest of it. And like I say, in a lot of these cases, the parents look at the camera, CCTV footage, and say that.
Did he get back into the nightclub?
Don't know. Don't.
Because if you've been
so,
wading
no.
through water and you've gone to try and get back into a nightclub and you're covered in water, the bouncers are going to turn your way straight away anyways, regardless.
So he would have been on his own at that point.
Yeah.
But I think they're just trying to fill in the blanks because, I mean, that guy again, that Tony Brockley, he did say that unless the police can prove that it isn't a serial killer, then every time there's a body found, then the rumours are going to persist, which is the case. But if the police are in a position where they know it's not a human doing it, then they can't really come out and say, it might be a Dogman.
Well,
scaring
it
people.
can work both ways, though, can't it? That you could, if they don't want these rumours to go around saying it's a serial killer or a Dogman or whatever, well, then do your jobs
and say what it is.
Find out what it is,
but no one's going to believe them if they come out and say it's a Dogman, are they?
Doesn't
That's
matter.
The problem.
At least,
at least they can come out and say it is what it is, and
it's just
deal
too
with
many.
it.
It's just too many people now for it to just for them to just push under the carpet and say no, it's not. They've got to do the jobs. That's what we're paid for. That's what our taxes pay for.
Even if it is something supernatural, well, unnatural, I'd say, then make it so. Let us know.
Yep, definitely.
We're big enough, ugly enough, old enough now to deal with it.
Should be. Like Lee just got into now that it's supernatural. Dogmen have been known and been spotted around canals.
So going back to the David Blunkett case, because this is the one, to me, that I mean, there's a lot of them, but this is a particular one that interests me because this is what makes me believe it's supernatural, and I explain why. But just going into the David Blunkett case there.
Basically, Mr. Plunkett on the way home on Saturday, April the 17th, 2012, had been at a music event, Donington Racetrack in Trafford Park. Basically, his mother received a phone call from him saying the ghastly screaming she heard during the last phone call he made before he died indicated foul play. But basically, the investigation into his death concluded his death was accident, but his parents suspect otherwise. So, David Blunkett's father, he said something had terrified him. He was on the phone, but our son could not speak to us, and that's not because he was drunk. His mother Anne says the screaming and the howling was so unearthly.
Yeah.
We just thought it had to be something.
And the reason why I think it's supernatural, like I was getting into, is this because a similar case happened in Minnesota to a guy called Henry McCabe, who was 32. And he just went out for something to eat, and he said to his friends, just drop me off at this petrol station. I'll get something to drink and all that. It's after he's been out for a meal, and I'll walk back from here. At 2:28 that night, his wife received a call to her mobile phone, but unfortunately went to answer phone, so she didn't receive it till the next day. And when she did listen to that phone call, and if you want to listen to that phone call, it is on YouTube. But essentially, on the phone call, you'll hear him, and his wife did say that he did sound injured on the phone when she listened back to the call. But you can also hear growls, moans. You can hear him say, or somebody say, "Stop it." He went missing on the 7th of September, and he wasn't found till November the 2nd, and he was found in a lake, and it was left there. I think the verdict was that he drowned. So you've got almost a month there between him going missing and being found. You've got the phone call, you've got the howls and all the rest of it. Now that leads a lot of people, including myself, to believe that there's potential that a dogman's involved here. Now, I know it sounds far-fetched, and when you look at the overall evidence, I don't think there's another explanation for it. In the next show, I'll explain why it's possible that a dogman could be in the UK, for those who are thinking this is just an American thing if it's real at all.
It's like going back to Manchester Canals, David Plunkett's mum receiving that phone call, howling, growling, screaming.
She's, unearthly. And his dad said there, he couldn't speak to him, but that's not because he was hammered. That's because I think he was in shock.
Well, enough to scare him.
Yeah, and if you're in shock, and a lot of these cases in Manchester as well, you'll find that people go missing and then they're found maybe a week or so later. And that's another thing. That's a reoccurring. Same here in the Henry McCabe case. He went missing on 7th of September. He was found November the 2nd. There's a lot of people. There's another one in Manchester here. Chris Barney, 22, from Simply. He was found dead in the Ship Canal again, 10 days after going missing from a Stone Roses concert. So you've got over a week.
If you think it's a serial killer and he got separated from his friends, I believe
it's going to be the same.
If it's a serial killer, he must be at these concerts, or he must be waiting near them, or he must know about things like that, because it can't be. He'll do.
That's what
serial killers always have a preference. 85 people since 2008. It's a lot of people, and it's too coincidental.
And I think people should be getting on this, and I think people should be maybe writing to their MPs or
doing something.
Someone
definitely.
Just to like you got this poor gentleman here, Mr. Powell's dad. He wants the case reopened because he's got no answers as to how his son's ended up dead in the canal. It's just
that has to be the worst feeling ever. Not being able to know. It's got to be.
And if this is a predator, and I'm not saying that this, and obviously a lot of the bodies and a lot of the bodies and the coroner's reports haven't been made public, so we won't know exactly how these people died. So I'm not saying they've been chewed up by these dogmen, but what I'm saying is, if you was pissed and you was walking back, and this is like 2 a.m, you're walking down a towpath, and a big dogman pops out in front of you, 7 foot tall, glowing eyes, you're going to go into shock.
Well, you're going to shoot yourself.
I'm not saying that these people are being devoured by dogmen, but Have you heard of infrasound?
Yes.
Right. Well, infrasound, human ears hear from 20 to 20,000 hertz. Infrasound is sound that happens below 20 hertz. Right, so we can't detect it like a dog whistle, that sort of thing. But it's still there. Now, I'll say elephants, rhinos, giraffes, tigers, they all use infrasound to communicate. Whales as well. They all use infrasound to communicate long distances. And animals have been shown to know when there's a tsunami and stuff like that going to happen because they can detect the infrasound before that travels before the shockwave and that. So
they can also prey as well. What's fucking injured?
They can stun prey. Yeah. But that's what I think's happening with a Dogman. I'm not saying that he's although in some cases he does probably carry people off, and that Henry McCabe's, he's obviously moving at that point. But these ones in Manchester, I think if you're walking down the street, you've had a few to drink, 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever it is, to kick out time, and you're walking down a towpath, which is pretty creepy anyway. And next thing you know, there's a Dogman in front of you, and it hits you with that infrasound. Now, infrasound, some of the symptoms of infrasound include nausea, anxiety, sorrow, like a deep sorrow where you just want to cry, chills, hallucinations, and also can cause
paralysis. Now, you mix paralysis with water, you've got a tragedy.
And especially if the hallucination side of things, because if that can hit you with that much infrasound in one shock, and I know like the military developing sonic weapons and stuff, aren't they, to use this in a similar way to stop crowds and protests and riots and all the rest of it. Even legitimate riots soon, they'll be all used at them as well. But that's what I think might be happening, and I think this Dogman might be hitting people with the infrasound, causing them to lose balance and all the rest of it, and then that's when they fall in the water paralysed, and that's it, that's game over.
Like I say, we're going to end it there, and as we said, next week's show is going to be about Dogmen in the UK. But I would just like to say, I hope the families of the victims of the Manchester canals do get some closure soon, and everyone just be wary.
Yeah, and hopefully they catch this guy.
And if you would like to email us with stories, or if you think we're speaking shit or whatever, leave with the email address.
Yeah, it's dbtopodcast@gmail.com.
Right, thank you.